Hey everyone, I wanted to comment on this past week's Excel assignment because it seemed to sort of hit differently than in years past. I was very happy to see that more people than usual gave it sort of an honest attempt trying to figure it out, even if they didn't get it perfectly, putting in some of these logical functions and getting Excel or LibreOffice or whatever to automatically update. So that was great to see. That said, I did pick up a lot more anxiety than usual, and I'm sure you saw some of that in the discussion forum. So I just wanted to, reassure you that things are fine, right? You did great, no need to panic. And I wanted to, without going over the assignment, just kind of talk through some of the logic behind it, what we got out of this, and what teachable moments we can pull out of this. So, first off, there are basically infinite ways to get to the correct answer here. So don't sweat it if you were uncertain, right? There was, some nebulous aspect to this because there were so many ways to get what we wanted. So, for example, here's one of your spreadsheets. You did great in this one. We've got this recreation of the conditional, right? So it's doing everything we want it to do. When we put in these things, we're getting these values. But instead of them being hard coded in, we've got these functions that are automatically updating, right? So we want true, false, true, true. We get true, false, true, true. Awesome. So this student used some nested statements, and you could have spread these out across the columns and then referred to those columns. Right? Again, infinite ways to get to the right answer. But this is just one possible way. We could rearrange this and still get the right answer. We could easily have 4 different formulas in these 4 rows that still are recreating the conditional. If we swapped around the rows in blue, that we would still get the right thing. So, that's a big one. Now, a teachable moment here. So, first off, it's very likely that you will use Excel again in your professional life if you're going to work in an office or you're going to start your own business. That said, it's very unlikely that you will see any of these logical functions again. Right? So you don't need to know how to do nots and XORs and conditionals and things like that. You'll probably use if. So if both of these things are true, then sell. Otherwise, buy. Right? We're going to have things like that, which you don't have to get right the first time. You can fix your work. There we go. So what am I getting at? You're not going to see the logical functions again, so if you had a difficult time stringing those together, don't sweat it. As a life skill, it's not important. This wasn't about that. In the same way, you go to the gym, you lift weights, you put them down. That's not useful, but it's part of the process of getting exercise. Right? This was an exercise to get some things going on in your brain. So, I'll save the teachable moment. Let me keep talking about this. So, if you felt bad because the hard part was Excel and not the logical functions, my recommendation would be check YouTube, ask for intro to Excel, Excel tutorials, something like that. There's a lot of content. You don't need to go through like a 3-hour course or something. There's some good stuff that's like 10-15 minutes. Or you can ask ChatGPT, what do I need to know about Excel? Can you give me some examples? And then open up your spreadsheet, follow along, and figure it out. You can even have ChatGPT make a game out of it for you by doing your prompt right. So, Excel, you got time. And we're not going to use it again in this class, although I would advise you to give it a shot, right? Build your comfort with this tool because you are going to be using this tool in the future. It is a lot easier to do algebra in Excel than it is to do symbolic logic. That said, you can give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, you can go back to pen and paper. It's not critical. You got plenty of time to build your comfort before you're in a situation where you're dealing with a spreadsheet that could lose someone money, Right now, it's just college work, right? It's consequence-free, essentially. So, with that, we are also moving out of symbolic logic in the semester. I start the semester with symbolic logic, and that's a very non-traditional way to do this class. The reason I do that is I want to get your brain into sort of an abstract thinking mode, and symbolic logic really pushes it to the extreme. So this stuff is all behind the scenes, right? When we're doing algebra, if you're, say, drawing a graph, technically that line on a graph is a condition about x and y having certain conditions being true, and otherwise it's not part of the line. Right? There is symbolic logic behind the scenes, but we can kind of brush it aside. We don't need to worry about that right now. But I think we've gotten sort of what we need out of this for this class. For a lot of people, this is uncomfortable, right? The symbolic logic and the abstract thinking in general, it's like getting trussed up in hockey gear and pushed out onto a rink for the first time. That said, the goal is not for you to go out onto the rink and be an awesome hockey player your first go. You're supposed to fall. You're supposed to trip and stumble. That tripping and stumbling here in a college class is you building up your skills so that when the time comes that your boss gives you some spreadsheet for some big account, you're able to come at it with enough confidence and enough knowledge that you can figure things out. So let's close on a teachable moment from here. So let's imagine that this was the first week of your new job and your supervisor gives you this spreadsheet. They say, hey, I've got the spreadsheet for the Sony account. I want you to get this back to me by the end of the week. Now, this is your first job. It's your first week. Maybe you have a little bit of Excel comfort. In any case, you're not going to know this specific spreadsheet. The appropriate thing to do in this case is to ask for help, to ask for some insight. Now, what I would want if I was your boss is I'd like you to say, hey, boss, that's great. I can definitely get this done for you. That said, it's my first week. I want to make sure that I do this right. Would it be okay if I took a look at this afternoon? And then maybe we can meet tomorrow afternoon and I can ask you any questions that come up so that we can get this done. So we can get this done right. And that would show me that you are motivated, that you are going to try to be a self-starter, but it also shows me that getting things right is valuable and important to you, which is something that I want to see as a boss. Now, of course, this depends on you not having a toxic boss. And if your boss is toxic and says, no, you got to figure it out yourself, this is your job, you know what? Go ahead and get it wrong, because it's going to land on them. Don't care too much about your work if your boss is a jerk. But if your boss responds well to you saying, hey, I want to make sure I do this right, can we talk about it? Then that's great. That's what you want to be doing. So in this case, I had a couple students reach out to me during office hours, which is exactly the sort of thing I like you to be able to do when you're tasked with something that's new and that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. That said, as a group, you were anxious, but you did great. So everyone got the points on this. Everyone, gave it an honest attempt. At least in most parts. In some cases, some people just kind of punted. There were a couple that were excellent, where they worked everything out perfectly. And those students got a little bit of extra credit, but everyone got full credit because it's weird stuff. But I think it is valuable stuff in the same way lifting weights and putting them down is useless but valuable at the gym. This is kind of the equivalent for you guys going into a professional world in the next few years. So there is a video in the bottom of content where I walk through the answers to this. Once you've submitted your work, you'll be able to access that. Most of you have already done that. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to talk to you about this stuff. And I will see you in the future.